All right. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yes. Yeah, thank you
This
for having me.
yeah, this is Branden Morgan, our guest. And for those of you who don't recognize my voice, this is Jeff Apple, the writer and producer of Can You Survive This podcast, and now hosting. So here we are.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Here we
I,
are for the Halloween episode.
I think this is a natural progression for you, taking over the show. Congratulations. I think it's great. I know you have Clint's blessing, and I'm sure if Cade were to hear what was going on, I'm sure that you would have Cade's blessing as well.
Yeah, man, it was great working with those guys. I've been behind the scenes for a couple years now, in front of the scenes.
Yep.
And, yeah, a lot of people don't know that I wrote almost every survival scenario that they've heard on this show. Cade wrote a bunch of them, and Clint wrote a couple of them.
Yep.
And yeah, so here we are.
My
And
history here is this was uh, the first assignment that I was given for a show to produce when I started producing podcasts for our old company. This was an idea of one of the original partners and said, go find somebody for a survival show. And we found Cade, and Cade and I workshopped a bunch of different ideas and then settled on making it an interactive kind of show, which was one of the first of its kind. So it was kind of like a game show kind of thing. And you were right there from the beginning, right there from the beginning. I remember your first target package, right? Was this huge pages long with diagrams and flow charts and stuff. It was great, dude. It was really, really detailed. And and that was, man, 3 years ago.
yeah, that was during pandemia.
Pandemic. It was
I
definitely during
I
pandemic.
call it pandemia now. You may have heard that I was dating a Russian girl over the summer, and
I
uh,
did hear
and so now instead of calling it the pandemic, now I've taken a page out of her book. I call it pandemia.
pandemia. I remember where I was when the show dropped. Uh, it was during the pandemic, and we were on an empty beach, and I was with my family on an empty beach in Santa Barbara. We decided to get away like for a weekend or something, or because the show dropped on a Tuesday, and so we were up there for the weekend, and we stayed. And I remember that's how it went down. Good times,
Yeah,
good
man.
times.
We've been at this thing for a while.
Yep.
I'm
No,
happy to keep it going.
I drove through Hollywood earlier today, past the Vine Street exit that I would take to get to the W Hotel when we were recording Blackson.
Yeah, I have in my notes here that to talk about Blackson. So yeah,
Yeah.
so for a little context for the audience, Branden and I produced many podcasts together, and the Mudasucka experience featuring comedian Michael Blackson, the African king of comedy, also known as the African Howard Stern. Uh,
Yes.
we spent many nights at the penthouse in Hollywood, at the W in Hollywood. Uh, so for anyone that's actually listening, put in the comments if you would like to see videos from when we used to work at Michael Blackson's house.
I don't know if iHeart still owns all that video content. Let's not make
if
promises we can't keep.
if
But
you're interested in the comments, right? If you want to see it, right, twerk in the comments. If you don't want to see it, right, no twerk in the comments.
and listen, and let's give a shout out to the late great Chinese best friend, who was Michael Blackson's co-host, who we unfortunately lost to COVID, and it was a big loss. He was a good dude with a young family, and he's missed. Um,
Yeah, big shout
but
out to CVF.
Yep, big shout out, and we had a lot of fun those nights. We didn't get a lot of notice. It was like, hey, we're recording tomorrow, or sometimes we're recording in an hour, depending on the girls that Mike could get up to his place.
We had
And he
that
was very successful.
show. That show was a lot of fun, man. And I will tell you that the record for OnlyFans girls was $400,000 a month.
A month, I remember that.
There was
Yeah.
a girl, she actually any children listening, censor your ears, but there was a girl making $400,000 a month to deep
Yep.
throat vegetables on
Mm,
OnlyFans. And
yeah.
I was thinking about her the other day, actually.
Yeah. There was a girl also who could have been making more, but for some reason, uh, she was often asked to do things in person that she didn't want to do, and she was often asked to do the same thing, and she couldn't understand why she was always asked. Um, well, I don't
Was it a
want to
foot fetish
bring it up.
thing? Was it a foot fetish thing?
Oh no, it wasn't. It was scatological.
Oh, it was a scatological thing. Man, see, my first episode, and we're already getting raunchier than I'd say on par with Clint. We're on par with Clint.
Sure, yeah, I remember. I remember when we recruited Clint for season 2. Cutting the promos was wonderfully difficult because I was laughing so hard because he would get very inappropriate. Like I was saying, in the promo, Clint, like say something like, say you're skiing with your family and there's an avalanche, right? And would you know what to do? And he would always go, say you're skiing with your family and a cute little snow bunny happens to cross your field of vision.
Yeah, we
And then
did
he'd giggle and then he would start over.
we had a rapid fire round, which I'll probably continue to incorporate into the show. And he would often ask people butt plug or ball gag.
Ooh, I'd go ball gag.
I was pegging you as a butt plug kind of guy.
Listen, it depends on how I'm feeling, but like tonight I'd be a ball gag guy. Yeah.
Okay. So I see you're not in the
I'm not
shed.
saying no, it's not like a hard pass on the butt plug, but just for right now, I'm
Yeah.
more of a ball gag kind of guy.
You got
Yeah.
to ease
No,
into that. You got to kind of know who you're working with. You ease into that situation.
it's true.
Yeah. I want to get Clint to come on the show as my guest. And
That
we'll
would be a
see.
lot of fun, man.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So
He would be a great guest.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Branden
Excuse me.
also produced The Devil Within, highly successful podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, season 3 coming very, very soon.
What can you tell us? So
Yes.
season one was, for those who don't know, what was season one?
Season 1 was a story that had been rattling around in my brain for 30 years. It was about a murder in my hometown when I was 14, when I was a kid. A contemporary of mine, a kid that lived down the block, murdered his mom and then killed himself in the woods in the middle of a snowstorm. And the ensuing investigation revealed that he was involved in a satanic cult. And so that was kind of like a flashpoint in the late 80s for what became known as the Satanic Panic. Um, and the case was never officially solved. There were a lot of inconsistencies in the police reporting and the coroner's reports. And it's just something that was just, a story that I needed to tell. And I tried to tell it in a lot of different ways. I'd written it as a feature film. I'd written it as a television show. I had a outline of as like a documentary. And then I had the opportunity to write it out as a podcast. And like you said, we got really lucky. It was able to find an audience. And it did really well. That was in 2021. Last year, 2022, season 2 was about a demonic possession, a supposed demonic possession of a man named Michael Taylor in Yorkshire, England in the early 70s. That was a really, really trippy, creepy story. And then season 3, I'm not able to announce what it's about yet, but it's called A Season in Hell.
Okay. And
That's the
so
third
season
installment.
one, that one,
Mhm.
the true story behind that, because this is about a real murder that actually occurred,
Oh yeah.
wasn't there also some kind of paranormal situation that had people really confused, or what's the deal with that?
That's what is, listen, it depends on whether or not you're a believer. First of all, I happen to not be a believer. I think that there will be a rational kind of scientific explanation for anything. everything. But on the other side of it, there are a lot of unanswered questions regarding was Tommy. But the bottom line is the Catholic Church came in the aftermath of it when it was revealed that he was involved in a satanic cult. And they basically told the town, the Archdiocese of Newark came in and they basically told the town, this was a clear-cut case of demonic possession. We missed it. Sorry. Move on. Okay. And it was a very religious town that I grew up in. And
Where is this?
and
This
a
is
lot
New
of people,
Jersey, right? New
New
Jersey.
Jersey, North Jersey, yeah, about 40 minutes from the city, just off of Route 80, exit 36. And then
Shout out.
shout out. And so it was one of those things. The manner in which he allegedly killed himself was very suspicious.
Didn't
And
he like
now, I
hack
mean,
his whole?
I'm telling.
Didn't he sliced his wrist,
Well,
right?
listen, it played out like you couldn't have written it this way if you were if you were a screenwriter, because a couple of events lined up to make it really interesting and difficult to explain and impossible to explain away. And one of those things was, like I mentioned, there was a snowstorm. Okay. So there was a fresh blanket of snow, and where his body was found, you could clearly see that there was only one set of footprints leading up to the spot where he killed himself. Okay. That's established. No one denies that. No one disputes that. Okay.
So his prints, in theory.
His foot, there was right.
Yeah.
They matched
He
his shoe size. They matched
he
everything.
walked out there and killed himself.
He walked there. No one followed him. There were no footprints leading away, like nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
So the way that he did it was, first he took his Boy Scout knife and he tried to cut his left wrist.
Mhm.
Right. And he wasn't very good at it. According to the coroner's report, the blade went between the two bones of his forearm, and he was just like kind of going up and down, not like across, whatever, and didn't really do anything. And then it just started hacking at his left hand, his left wrist. So his left hand was rendered completely useless. All tendons and ligaments were cut. Couldn't make a fist. Couldn't do anything. Okay. So his left hand was useless. Then he took that same Boy Scout knife and inserted it into his neck, just below his left ear, and dragged it all the way across his throat to his right ear, 3 inches deep. He basically turned himself into a fucking Pez dispenser. Okay.
Ugh.
Almost cut his own head off. All right. So now here's where it gets really weird. You have one coroner that said, yes, it would be possible for a kid his age and with his relative strength to make that wound to the neck. Okay. Then you had another coroner saying that it would require 2 hands to do that, but his left hand was useless. So what you're getting at, what they got at, what the investigators couldn't really square the circle was, how could he have done it to himself? Right. Only one set of footprints in, no set of footprints coming out. But here he was with these ghastly injuries, allegedly self-inflicted, for which there was no answer. And every person that examined the body, from the first responders on scene, police, paramedics, to doctors, to coroners, to the fucking undertaker, everybody was like, ooh, okay, who did this to him? Because he didn't do it to himself.
Wow.
And then they had to be told, no, this was a murder-suicide. Close the book. So that's where people found an in to be able to claim some paranormal activity, where a kid or a person possessed by a demon would be able to have the strength to do that kind of stuff. So,
and how old was he at the time?
14.
14. And he fucked the mom
14.
up too, didn't he? Didn't he really fuck his mom up?
Yeah, with a barbell, caved her head in with a 20-pound barbell, and then went at her with that Boy Scout knife, like 60 stab wounds to her face and her body.
And why?
Yeah.
So some people say he was possessed by a demon. What is the other explanation? Why would he do that?
there isn't really another explanation. Okay. So my thing about it is, because people ask me, uh, are you a believer? Do you think the story that you told in the podcast, do you believe it? And the answer is I don't. I honestly don't. I needed to have an ending just to get the story out of my brain. Okay. Because I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in any paranormal stuff like that. It's just that's just how I'm
You
wired.
just wait.
Um, but I think the truth is far more terrifying. As a parent, I think the truth of what happened is far more terrifying. That every person in this kid's life that had some kind of authority over him, from parents to teachers to coaches to clergy, missed an obvious mental breakdown that this kid was having. I think that he folded under the pressure. He was a straight A student, Catholic school. He was an all area wrestler. Okay. He was an altar boy, really, really involved in his church. Okay. So
You think he could have got a
any
little
one of those,
think he caught a little molestation or something, drove him crazy?
you know what? That's something that there really isn't any evidence of. And no one has even whispered about it, but that would be consistent with the time frame where a bunch of that fucking shit was happening. But what I'm saying is that all of those three things, scholastic kind of requirements, commitment to your church, and especially being a competitive wrestler in New Jersey, which is the only state where high school wrestling is a more popular sport than high school football. Okay, like they take that shit really, really seriously. And so any one of those three, it was an enormous amount of pressure for a 14-year-old kid. And so you put all of them together, and there's a chance that he snapped, and there were a lot of signs. He got a new group of friends. He started listening to a completely different set of music. Okay. Staying out late. And it was
Was he fucking
parenting was
around?
different back then.
Wasn't he fucking around with like reading occult literature and like going into the woods and
Yep.
doing weird shit like that?
And that was all from his, where a lot of people try to point the finger. It was he had a very progressive history teacher in his Catholic school that decided to teach a history of religions class,
Mm.
where these kids would learn something beyond this kind of Catholic stronghold of Jefferson, New Jersey, that there are other worlds and other religions and other people that you're going to go meet as successful, responsible adults. So he had them all pick out of a hat, pick a different religion. And everything was from Hinduism to Mormonism, fucking Scientology was in this. And
Satanism?
Satanism. Tommy's friend picked Satanism out of the hat.
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah. Not Tommy. That's the kid's name, Tommy Sullivan. His friend picked Satanism. And so they were study partners. Tommy wrote a paper on Mormonism, and his buddy wrote a paper on Satanism. But that was where Tommy first got a copy of the Satanic Bible written by a guy named Anton LaVey in 1969. And what was interesting when I was interviewing people for the show, one of the police officers who was the first on the scene, who's now the mayor of the town, was very surprised. There was a town hall meeting, and an expert on the occult and Satanism came in to address the assembled teachers and everybody who was really worried. And a guy asked, how would a kid even learn about the devil and Satanism and archangels and all that shit? And the answer was in fucking church. That's where they learn it. That's where they're introduced to this. In the negative, obviously, like this is the bad thing, but there's always going to be people that are going to be interested in that, right? And Tommy became so interested in it that he decided to turn his back on basically Jesus and be counted among fucking Lucifer and his followers. And he was going, and there was this cult in the woods that were doing all of these satanic rituals and shit. And here's this 14-year-old kid who just got seduced by it and started writing. You could see his journal. His journal would go from, him writing these creative writing stories about the kid who tries to like wins over the cheerleader and wins state championships, into like satanic drawings of bloody, fiery kind of demons and shit, like almost overnight.
I'm gonna burn some fucking sage in here after this conversation.
I think, yeah, I think you should. I think you should.
I
It
think
was
I
a really,
will.
it was a scary time, like for all you Gen Xers out there listening, my town became like fucking footloose after that, right? Like dances were canceled, prom was canceled, parents were going through all of your tapes and CDs and throwing shit out, and everyone was so scared because it suddenly became a very, very real possibility that your kid could kill you in your own home. And that
That's
scared the
fucking
shit out of parents.
that's scary shit, man.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
more dumbbells in the house
No,
for
of course not.
8-year-olds.
So yeah, that was so that was this that was the show. And
That's dark, man.
yeah, it was really, really dark. And like I said, it found an audience. And I listen, I it was funny. I was left completely unsupervised creating the show. Okay. And I didn't, and I knew very little about podcasting when I was writing it and recording it and producing it. And so I didn't really realize that I was breaking some pretty hard rules in podcasting, where it started off the first 4 or 5 episodes was a really kind of by the numbers true crime podcast. But then I knew I was heading into a narrative kind of landscape where there wasn't a definitive ending, because an ending doesn't exist in the real world. The case is still basically open. There was never a satisfying response to how could he have done this to himself by a medical professional. It was always like, we don't know. And so I can't have that. I don't like stories without endings. So I took a hard detour into like paranormal ghost storytelling. Okay.
And the thing that they think he couldn't have done was just the severity of how much he hurt himself.
He could have done one of the wounds to himself, but not both.
That's what they say. See, I don't know, man, because you're saying he was a strong, buff wrestler,
No,
and
not he wrestled 106 pounds.
okay, so he's a 100-pound wrestler, and,
Yes. And he's 14,
and he almost
maybe
cut his own head off.
just
Now,
maybe just like mid puberty. He wasn't thick at all.
I'm still going with like all that adrenaline that he's got from just doing a big time murder. And he's like, I have to successfully kill myself. Otherwise, it's going to be a big fucking problem for me. And I think he
Yeah,
just, hacked
maybe,
himself up with
maybe.
a,
But what I'm saying is that you read the coroner's reports and the blood loss from the wrist wound. You're fucking woozy before you even raise the knife to your neck. Okay. And then as soon as you get through that carotid artery right there, I mean, that's a geyser. It's like turning on the shower full blast. You're going down, you're getting blurry and hazy within seconds.
So
Okay.
they're saying that the demonic possession is what made him able to have the strength to just destroy himself in such a brutal fashion.
Right. And what that line of thinking would be, because it wasn't his own strength, it was the strength of the demon
I think, see, I think he could have been possessed. I think he read all those fucked up books, and you read enough demon stories and the demon gets in there. That's what I think.
Yeah, listen, and there are millions and millions of people that that believe that. And there was an interview that wasn't in the podcast, but it's going to be in a future iteration of the show that I'm not allowed to announce yet, where we found Tommy's middle school principal, because he was still in eighth. He was in eighth grade. He wasn't in high school yet.
Wow.
His principal, a wonderful woman. She's quite old now, but sharp as a tack.
Mm-hmm.
Sister Philomena, and she remembers to a bone chilling certainty the last time that she saw Tommy. And to hear her tell the story, it's honestly, it's the first time where an iota of doubt crept into my mind.
You're starting to become a believer.
No,
I'm saging this fucking house as soon as we're done, man.
And what she said was, she says, I remember the last time I saw Tommy, He was such a good student. We were so proud of him walking down the halls. He was so great at wrestling, and he was such a good student, blah, 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 blah. And seeing the transformation that occurred in such a short amount of time. Thanksgiving, he was his normal self, and the murder happened a couple days after Christmas. Okay. So insane short amount of time to go from this kid to this kid. So she said that his eyes were just empty.
Mm-hmm.
And he had fallen asleep in class, and he had some he woke up like screaming in class, like a nightmare, night terror, something fucking crazy happened.
Mm-hmm.
The class leaves. She asks him to stay. He won't meet her gaze. He won't look at her. He turns around to walk away. She goes, the last thing I said to him was, Tommy, please remember that exorcism remains a Catholic rite. And he turned to me, she says, and the last words he said was, it's too late. And he turned and left, and he murdered his mom the next night.
Holy shit. They should have exercised him. They should have fucking exercised him, man. Sister Philomena,
they should have sat him down instead of saying, hey, exorcism, Catholic rite. Sit him down and say, how are you feeling? What's wrong? Do you want to talk about stuff?
Yeah, that too. That too.
Yeah. Or let's get you a therapist, like where's your mom and dad? Like how's your little brother doing? Like what?
That's a good point. We'll keep this a little grounded. She says that exorcism is a rite. He turns around and says it's too late. Maybe that's when you say, whoa, we need to get the counselor in here.
Yeah. Or we need to tackle this kid and just make sure that he's safe, because there's obviously something fucking wrong.
Yeah. That was in the 80s, so these days you would think that that the red flag goes off and you call home and you say, hey, he's saying it's too late for a fucking exorcism. You might want to lock your door. You just sleep with your bedroom door locked, mom and dad.
Yeah, dude. It was really gnarly, man. And it was, a very scary time in my town. And it's one of those things that kind of defined the area, unfortunately, and and the best thing that happened to my town was The Sopranos, like a generation later, because, North Jersey, a lot of mob and former mob guys, up there. And, there were mob bodies found in my town. It was kind of like a dumping ground for the mob, so that kind of also dark and fucked up, but at least it wasn't the satanic panic, epicenter anymore, but it was a rough time.
Speaking of Sopranos, man.
Yeah.
You ever noticed that pilot episode was like all over the place? It was like almost like a dark comedy. They're like running the guy over with the car and shit. It's like very over the top. Yeah.
Yeah. Very over the top. And then Christopher kills that dude. Shoots the guy in the deli.
You know some Sopranos people, right? I want to get some Sopranos people on the show. You maybe put in a word in for me. We get some former Sopranos actors on.
Sure. Yeah.
Can you survive this podcast?
Yeah, we could try. We could try that. Definitely. But then and then season 2 of the show was equally as strange in the 70s about a demonic possession where a guy was unemployed and chronic back pain from a work injury, and his marriage was kind of going down the tubes, and a neighbor said, have you met Jesus? You should come meet Jesus with me at my church group. And he's like, I don't fucking care. Okay. And so they go, and they're instantly converted, like the first night, because the pastor was this young, really cute girl, really charismatic. Okay. And he's like, I'm feeling the Lord in me. But no, he wanted to bang the pastor. Okay.
The pastor, they have hot female pastors. That's a thing.
Yeah. I didn't know. They can't be priests. They can't be priests, but they could run like home groups, like church groups. Okay. And they can proselytize, and they can recruit. They don't call it recruiting. What do they call it? Converting, whatever. And so there he is in this church group. They feel great. All of a sudden, they've got all these new friends. And then one night he gets the pastor alone, and he makes a move on her, and she rebuffs him. And he gets really angry about it. And then not only does she rebuff him, but then the next day she humiliates him by letting the whole group know what happened and claiming that it will be a healing moment. But he just gets completely fucking emasculated, okay,
Yeah.
and embarrassed, and so he snaps and he attacks her. Okay, now whenever religion is involved in this, it's not this guy's fault. He has to be possessed. So they make this snap diagnosis. You're possessed by a demon, because there's no way you try to put your hands on me because you love me and we're friends and everything's cool. So you're possessed.
So
They
he
get the
attacks
church
her,
elders.
but he attacks her, but she survives.
Yeah. It's in front of the group.
Okay.
So
okay.
everybody
So
everybody grabs him like, whoa, dude, you're being crazy.
Got it.
And
okay.
so the woman, the pastor, goes to the elders of the Church of England, and they go, oh, yeah, you're totally right. That sounds exactly like a possession. Bring him down here. We have to do an exorcism right away. And this is a year after the movie The Exorcist had come out. So everyone's possessed by everything. And so they diagnosed this motherfucker with 49 demons have taken over his body. Wow. 49.
Wow.
Okay. So they basically kidnap him and tie him down and put him on the floor of the church, and they perform an exorcism for like 8 hours. And they're abusing him, and they're like fucking waterboarding him with holy water, and just like completely breaking this guy down. Okay. And then the most English thing possible, after 8 hours, they decide they have to stop for tea.
I was going to say tea time. I knew it.
It's tea time. Okay. But here's the difference. They tell Michael, all right, listen, we're almost there. Out of the 49 demons, we've gotten rid of 46 of them. There's 3 left. They're the bad ones, but we'll get them later. The ones that are left are mayhem, incest, and murder. Those are the 3 that are left in you. We haven't been able to get out yet. But go home and rest. Come back here in a couple hours and we'll finish off. Michael's like, all right, great. He goes home to rest. First thing he does is take his wife's beloved toy poodle and rip it apart while it's alive.
Oh boy. Should have got those last 3.
Then he finds his wife and just completely destroys her with his bare hands.
Oh my God.
Okay. The police, when they got there, they spent the first several hours looking for a murder weapon until the coroner said, no, there was no, he did all of this with his bare hands. And the police started just throwing up by thinking about it. They found Michael Taylor, the assailant, the perpetrator, in the center of town, responding to a call of a drunken college kid covered in red paint, naked. When they get there, it's not a college kid. He's not drunk, and it's not paint. It's naked Michael Taylor covered in the blood of the murder victim.
Covered in his wife's blood and the poodle blood as well, I'm assuming.
And the dog. Yeah.
Should have got those last 3 fucking demons, man. Holy shit.
Yes, this show.
So the case goes to trial after this. A lot of sage.
The case goes to trial. They tried to blame the church. They tried to blame the pastor. Eventually, he got an insanity plea. He did like 15 years, and he's out.
Did you manage to get an interview with him?
No, I didn't, because in 2015 he caught another caller for exposing himself to an underage girl. He's not a good dude.
So is he back in jail? Not a good dude. Is he locked back up, or is he out?
No, he did. I think
he did his time for the exposure too, for the indecent exposure.
I don't know if he got any time for exposure. I'm not really sure. The case kind of goes cold after that, and he hasn't given any interviews. Yeah.
Wow. And he's in England, right?
Yeah. So
he's not
up in Yorkshire.
Right.
No, Yorkshire County, north of London. Yeah. On the coast.
Up in here, motherfucker.
Not up in here.
Wow. Okay. So that's some fucked up shit. The Devil Within, everyone. That is the
Devil Within
that we're talking about. True crime. These true crime stories get crazy. And
Yeah.
so those, that's season 1 and season 2. Those are both out and
Yep.
available on all
And available
podcasting
wherever you get your
platforms.
podcasts.
Okay.
Yep.
And
Excuse me.
season 3, when is that coming out?
November, soon. Like
Oh,
3
really?
weeks.
Okay. So you're
Yep.
pretty much done with it then, because here we are on Halloween talking about
Um
this shit.
yeah, mostly, yeah, a lot of it's done. There's still
Okay.
some work to do, but we're not dropping all episodes at once. So the production will be continuing after the first few.
Okay. And is this
It's
like
going to be
first week in
released on
November, second week in November?
no. Like just before Thanksgiving. So
Okay.
like a month from now.
In
Yeah.
about a month. Okay. All right.
Yep,
So this
about a
is
month.
this is the
Yeah.
Halloween special. So we're talking about all this fucking spooky shit.
Yes. Yes. And the interesting thing about The Devil Within is that we're changing up the format after season 3. It's going to become an always on. It will be a weekly show, on brand, just exploring different
And
everything from
are you gonna host
yeah.
that?
Yep. We'll be exploring everything from, paranormal to satanic murders to unsolved murders to urban legends to film reviews of, horror movies from, everything kind of in that world.
Wow. And are you
Yeah.
gonna have guests, or is it gonna be just kind of you
Yep.
talking?
Sometimes there will be guests if it's appropriate. Sometimes it'll just be me telling the story. Sometimes it'll, maybe I'll have
I
a guest
think
host here and there.
if I'm not mistaken, I think actually, we used to do so many projects together. I think I may have had a little voice cameo in season 1, now that I think about it.
You did. You were the interviewer in the second bonus episode of season 1. Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes. See, my mind, man, I just practice being out of my
We
mind.
recorded we recorded your side of the interview. Well, really, really naughty things were happening in the next room at Blackson's.
Yes. Yes. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to say that, but
Yes. Speaking of Halloween, for some reason that night, one of the girls was in a Spider-Man unitard. Do you remember that?
um I
I remember
remember a
that.
lot of unitards. There was a lot of unitards.
Yeah, I remember Jesse Thick was there. I remember because there were a couple of repeat guests.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Um
was a fun show. That was a fun show.
I want to get back in touch with Michael. Maybe he'll come on this show.
Maybe.
I
Maybe he
would like
will.
to I would like to record a special Can You Survive This podcast from the penthouse at the W.
Because we survived that podcast.
Yeah. That was a
That
good
was
time. That was
it
a
was a
good
good
time.
but think about that, dude. It was height of pandemia. The peak of pandemia. And we're up in that penthouse with a lot of people, and who the hell knows where they were spending their time. Okay. Michael on a plane every weekend, flying everywhere to do comedy shows. I mean, it was,
If you think
and we
about
never
it,
got it.
some people, yeah, we never got it, and some
Yep.
people like it was just interesting how different groups of people have different levels of like giving a fuck about things.
Yeah.
Like that group was very much like, what's pandemia? We're twerking over here. Like
Yeah. It doesn't
what's up?
matter. We're doing shit. We're making content. We're talking
We're
OnlyFans.
partying.
We're
Yeah.
partying. Mike's getting, material for his comedy. I mean, everyone's getting paid. It was a weird time.
Yeah, we're over here like, why the stairwell is inoperable? How do we need the emergency exit to be functional here?
God, that
Always, can
elevator
you
ride.
survive this lesson? Always check all your exits and staircases.
Know
Make
where
sure
your
you
exits
have,
are.
yeah, know
At
where your
least two.
exits are.
At least two. Have two ways out. Have two ways out.
I
Yeah.
remember that though, that the stairwell was inoperable, and
Always.
I was not a big fan of that.
We're in that elevator ride, man. Whew.
Like, mask up for this one,
Oh
people.
my gosh. Yeah. Good times though. Good people. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. So okay, so Devil Within season 3 coming out in a
Yep.
month.
Yep.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
To be followed by weekly Devil
Yep.
Within
Starting
episodes.
coming January 24, we will be doing weekly shows, and then we'll have another limited in the spring, and then another one in the fall. We're going to do 2 limited series per year and connect them with weekly shows.
Man, you are staying busy in the podcasting world.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
When
dude.
we got started together, we were both like, what is a
What?
podcast?
Yeah, let's Google that real quick. What is a podcast?
Gonna need to get some microphones, apparently.
And some recording equipment, I guess. We're going to need to record
Apparently.
stuff.
We actually
Yeah.
started pre-pandemia. Because I do remember we did some fun in-person shit. And then we went to a lot of Zoom stuff. Michael
Yeah,
Blackson's was
I
always in person though.
yeah, I had one show pre-pandemia, which was Made Women. Speaking of The Sopranos,
Yeah.
it was a Soprano show. Yep.
I would like to, okay, audience listeners, if you would like the Made Women girls to come on Can You Survive This podcast, write in the comments below who is your favorite Sopranos character,
Yeah.
and we'll see if we can get that hooked up.
Yeah, and you can check out Made Women wherever you get your podcasts. Also, we only did the first season. It was a Sopranos rewatch with Drea De Matteo.
Yep.
Great Drea De Matteo.
Fantastic, Drea De Matteo.
Yep. And it only lasted one season, and the girls decided to move on to greener pastures. But it was Drea De Matteo and her friend Chris Kushner, and they break down. It's like an insider's look from Drea about the show, and we went through the first all I think 12 episodes from season 1, 10
Well,
episodes.
I think the audience has spoken. I'm reading the comments. No, I'm just kidding. But they want Drea on the show, so we'll see if we can do that. Audience,
Yeah, she's got an OnlyFans now too, Drea.
does she?
Yep.
Okay.
That came out in the trades a couple months ago. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, it all comes full circle. We got Michael Blackson OnlyFans. We got Made Women OnlyFans.
There you go. Yeah.
Let's see if we can't get some guests for Can You Survive on this thing.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great.
So speaking of which, I know you're tight on time, but think you got time for a hypothetical survival scenario?
I sure do. Let's do it.
All right, my friend. Here we go. Excuse me. So, for this scenario, you are at the grocery store and you're perusing the aisles when all of a sudden, bang, 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 gunshots are going off, chaos is ensuing, and there is now an active shooter situation in the store.
Am I alone or am I with people?
You have traveled solo.
Okay.
So there are other people in the store, but you are not with them.
Okay.
All right. So first question. Do you A, stay in your position and determine where the shots came from, or B, get low and zigzag to cover before assessing where the threat is coming from?
B, get low.
B is correct. You want to get low. And this is going all the way back to the Cade days and Clint as well. This is what we're going to call get off the X.
Get off the X. And what I learned from Cade, you said get to cover. There's a difference between cover and concealment. Concealment will hide you, but it won't stop a bullet. Where cover will hide you and stop a bullet.
Very smart, my friend. We're getting ahead of ourselves. So,
okay, sorry.
So you get low, you start zigging and zagging, you're moving, you're low to the ground. Next question. Do you A, get behind a large rack of food, which you are right next to, or B, continue staying low and zigzagging over to one of those freestanding meat coolers?
Food? Tell me, like describe the first one.
So A is large rack of food that's close to you.
A rack of food, like a rack of like potato chips or something, or like
chips,
a bunch of
bread,
sandwiches on it.
Yeah, stuff.
All right. Then I'd go to the freezer because I think the freezer is more likely to stop a bullet.
Exactly. B is correct.
Even if it's farther away, it's worth it to get to that.
As long as it's not too far away.
Okay.
But
I'll go to the freezer.
For this scenario, we're going freezer, and just like you said, that's cover versus concealment.
Okay.
Concealment, the potato chips are going to hide you, but not stop a bullet. Cover, we want that big fucking meat freezer to protect your ass. Yeah.
Okay.
So cover versus concealment. You're going with the meat freezer.
Okay. So the shooting is still happening. I'm off the X and I'm behind the freezer. So I'm
Correct.
safe for a second.
You're safe for a moment. Yep.
Okay.
So with that, do you A, take a little peek out from behind the freezer to determine where the shots are coming from, or B, sprint for an exit on the other end of the store?
Man, I really want to get the fuck out of there. But I think that's a little foolish. I would, if I'm not in immediate danger, what Cade would always tell me is if you have the time, take the time. So I would take advantage of my cover for the moment, and I would try and see what from where the danger's coming.
Exactly right. A is
Woo!
correct. Yes.
Hey,
And
yes. All right.
that's another Cade throwback. Basically, if you have the time, take the time.
Mm.
And you don't want to just go fucking sprinting around.
Because you could be running right at the
You
shooter.
could be running right at him. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
you get lucky and that makes you a hero and you fucking tackle him like totally by
Uh,
accident. Like you just
Yeah.
accidentally run into the guy. But
Could
for
also
this
accidentally get
scenario,
shot in the dick. Yeah.
yeah, for this scenario, we're going A.
Yep. Hey. All right. So
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out where he's coming from. All right. So I'm still
Exactly.
behind the meat. I'm still behind the meat freezer.
You're behind the meat freezer. You're trying to determine what's going on out there. You take a little peek out. You can't see the shooter, but you can see injured patrons near the front of the store, near the exit at the front of the store. You can see injured patrons. This is about 100 feet away from you. Now, 200 feet in the other direction is the employees only section. Okay, so you're in a position where you can't see the shooter. 100 feet to the front of the store is the exit, but a pile of injured people. 200 feet to the back of the store is the employees only section. So do you A, sprint towards the front exit, or B, stay low and sneak into the butcher's area to stock up on improvised weapons?
All right. Hold on. What's beyond the bodies in the front? Am I in a mall, or am I like, would I be exiting onto a street
You'll be
or exiting
exiting into a parking lot.
into a parking lot? And that's 100 feet this way where people are getting shot.
Correct.
I'm not going to go in that direction. I will retreat to where I think is a safer spot, to the employee section.
Okay. Excellent. So, correct. B
Ooh,
is correct.
ooh. All
Yeah,
right, good.
you're on a roll.
All right.
And what you do now is you make a pit stop behind the butcher's counter.
Uh-huh.
You grab a fucking meat cleaver.
Damn right I do. Uh-huh.
So, that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
So, you have your improvised weapons. All right. Do you A, make your way to the front exit, which is only 100 feet away, or B, make your way to the rear exit, which is 200 feet away?
I'm still going away from the danger. If there's the front exit is where the bodies still are, is where people are. It's like a fucking shooting gallery up there. So I'm gonna retreat to the rear exit.
Exactly right. B,
Okay.
you're going to the rear. You're not going towards that pile of fucking bodies.
Yep. No way.
You don't want to be added to the pile.
Nope.
All right. So B, you head towards the rear, even though it's further away from you. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're heading that way. You're staying low. You're moving cover to cover. You head towards the rear exit. You pass through the rear employees only area and you find yourself at the rear exit.
Okay.
Do you A, exit quickly and run, or B, slowly crack the rear door and make sure the coast is clear?
I'm always going to make sure that the coast is clear. A, because I don't want, if the cops are already there, I don't want them to think that I'm the bad guy and get killed fucking by the cops. And I think at any point in this so far, what I've learned is that acting rash isn't the best thing to do. So I don't think it's ever going to be just bust out the door and fucking run, even though that's what my instincts would tell me to do. I would peek to make sure the coast is clear.
Exactly right. B is correct. You got
Okay.
that one correct.
Okay.
So you peek out and you see about 10 feet away is a guy with a shotgun with his back turned to you. All right. So do you
I
A?
sever his fucking spine with the meat cleaver. Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Go
That
ahead.
was A. That was A.
Is A really attack?
A is rush out and knife him
Okay.
with the improvised weapon, aka meat cleaver, or B, pull the door back shut, go back in and take cover behind a stack of boxes. So A is rush out and knife him. B is quietly go back in and hide.
Man. Is he by himself with the shotgun?
He's by himself with a shotgun.
But his back is to me.
His back is to you.
I can get to him unobstructed. Right? Is that what you're telling me?
You might be able to close that gap before he turns around. Maybe.
I'm so close to being free from this. And I get to kill a guy with a cleaver too. But I think that's stupid, because what if he's like some fucking paramilitary guy that has 19 ways to kill me with his binky, and I'm some dipshit that doesn't know how to use a cleaver. So I would slowly close the door and go back to cover and wait for greener pastures.
B, that's a good choice.
Okay.
You made the right choice for this scenario.
Yeah, but I feel like a wimp. But
I will
okay.
tell you though, now with every scenario, we have a little bit of wiggle room. So if you're like, like a trained kind of Clint
Right,
kind of
like
guy,
Clint would fuck the guy up.
Clint would fuck the guy up with the cleaver. Maybe without the cleaver. He might not even need the fucking cleaver.
Clint wouldn't need the cleaver.
Clint doesn't need the cleaver.
Clint would pick his teeth with the cleaver after he ate the guy's soul.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. So, but for a guy like me and you, we're gonna go back in. We're gonna go back in.
Yeah.
So you're back in. You pull the door shut.
Behind boxes now.
You take concealment behind a stack of boxes. Now the gunman shoots through the door.
The shotgun guy?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
So he shoots through the door with his shotgun. And then
so I piss my pants. All right. I piss my pants behind concealment. All right.
Yep. Okay. He enters the room. He's scanning the room. His back is to you. He's only a couple feet away now. Now he's 2 feet away and his back is to you. Do you A, escape out the back door while his back is turned, or B, attack from behind and neutralize using the cleaver?
I want to like slice his Achilles when he's not looking, right? But but all he has to do is this. What I'm doing, if you're not watching, is I'm pulling my trigger finger. Like that's all he has to do to kill me. Okay,
yeah, but he's not facing you, and you're within striking distance.
Right, but if it's not a kill shot that incapacitates him, again, all he has to do is shoot me. But then if he hears me running for the door, all he has to do is turn and shoot me.
Mm-hmm. And he just blasted that fucking door too.
This is an unfair question. Hold on. So how far away is the door?
Further away than he is from you. You're 8 feet away from the door, and you're 1.5 feet away from him.
And he doesn't know that I'm there.
And he doesn't know you're there.
Like it's a complete just open shot. I could do whatever I want to him. I could kiss him.
You could blast him with the cleaver right in the fucking neck if you want to. Disclaimer, not advocating one way or the other for violence. Just saying this is a hypothetical survival.
And is the door open, or would I have to open the door, or can I just run and be outside in 8 feet?
It's closed, but it's hanging on by a thread. He kicked it and he shot it with a shot.
All right, listen, fine. Maybe I die, but I'm going to attack him. I'm 1.5 feet away. I'm going to take my chances. I've got a big cleaver. I can fully wind up and get a little chicken hop, and I'm burying it at his spine at the base of his skull.
There you go. You attack.
Oh,
B is correct.
B is correct.
You attack.
Oh, I got nervous just thinking about doing it.
I
I'm
know.
not a
I'm
violent
sweating
person.
over here. Shit.
I'm not a violent person. Okay.
I'm the one who writes all these fucking things.
Yeah. All right. So I attack. Good.
So you attack. You know, this is good. You the time is now to be aggressive.
Okay.
You know, you've got your chance and you take it.
I got the drop on him. Right.
You got the
Okay.
drop on him.
Okay.
You use the knife and he's fucking down. He's neutralized. And you take his gun.
Yeah, of course I take his gun. I don't know how to handle a weapon, but I would take his gun just so he wouldn't have it, just in case he's not dead.
Exactly. Just in
Okay.
case he's not going to pick it up and use it on
Yeah.
you. You're going to at least get it away from him. So
Yeah.
we got 2 more questions left here.
All right.
Do you A, go back into the store and find the other shooter, which there may be another shooter, we're pretty sure there is, and use the shotgun to neutralize him, or B, take the shotgun and exit through the back?
As much as I want to be Rambo and like be on the news as like the humble hero that killed a mass shooter, I'm not trained in firearms. I would end up hurting myself or shooting somebody else. So I would leave with the weapon.
Correct. B, you exit
B.
through the back.
Correct.
You're not going to Rambo this thing. You know,
No.
again, if you were Clint, then you Rambo.
Oh, 100%, because he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. For most of us out there, we don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah,
We're getting
I don't know how to
out.
clear a room.
No.
I have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
No.
Okay. So
All right.
I exit through the back with the weapon.
You exit through the back. You're putting distance between you and the threat. This increases your chances of survival. We're now on the last question. Do you A, go straight out the back and head to safety somewhere behind the building, getting the fuck out of there? Or B, make your way around to the front of the building, assess the situation, call the cops, and give them the details so that they can end the situation? So are you going out the back and just getting the fuck out of there, or are you going around to the front and providing details to authority?
I'm sorry. I don't think it's cowardice, but I think if I get away and get safe, then I can call 911 and do it. But if it's about me surviving personally, I go out the back, I get to a safe place, and I call 911.
This one was either one could be correct, and I'm going with you got it correct, because like I said, if this was a trained person, maybe you go around to the front and you do that situation. But for me and you and most of the listeners out there, go out the back and get the fuck to safety.
Yes.
Then once you are safe, then you can call the cops and say, look, this is what's going on, etc.
And honestly, because all I was thinking was that killing field at the front of the store where all the bodies were, and I just don't want to be another one of them.
And by the way, if you go rocking up to the front carrying a shotgun and the cops are already arriving, that could
maybe
be
they think I'm the shooter.
It could be a big fucking problem.
Yeah.
It could be a big mess. Yeah.
Whew. Wow. I've been on the other side of this a lot, but being in it, this was it gets you going, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on.
That was a lot of
You
fun.
have officially survived this podcast.
Yes.
Is there anything else? Anything? Where can people find you? Devil Within? What should people check out? What do you want them to know?
Yeah, listen, I don't have a big social media presence as of yet. We're going to be building one out when the show transitions into a weekly. But for now, just go anywhere you get your podcasts. The Devil Within, check it out. Leave a comment, share it with your friends. Rate the show if you enjoy it. And stay tuned for season 3.
Amazing, man. Thanks for coming on, and thank you. Can You Survive This Podcast Nation for checking out the Halloween special and my first hosting job, and see you all on the next one. Bye.